Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of the It's a Rap with Rap podcast. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. This being the podcast of overcomers, where we share real stories of people who have turned struggle into strength and pain into purpose. We have a guest today who truly knows what it means to flip life's switch back on. My guest today is Joe Steele, entrepreneur, financial expert, speaker, part owner of the Grand Rapids Gold basketball team, and author of the powerful new book, Life Switch: How to Experience the Power of Living On. With over 2 decades of experience as co-owner of a leading financial firm, Joe has helped thousands build wealth and wellness. He is a former certified personal trainer and founder of a healthy fast food chain restaurant. Joe's mission is simple yet profound: to help others flip their internal switch and unlock the extraordinary life already within them. In Life Switch, Joe takes us through his personal journey from rock bottom moments in his early 20s, facing near catastrophic setbacks such as brushes with jail, bankruptcy, and burnout, to a life of success, purpose, and service. His book teaches how to activate your own switch to stop living on autopilot and start living on. Welcome, Joel, to the podcast.
Thanks, Ron. Happy to be here. You got me fired up reading that. This is awesome, and we're gonna have a good time tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great, and our audience is going to love it. I read your book, and it was so inspiring. You did an excellent job authoring it. Is that your first book?
Yeah, it is. It was not something I ever planned to do, but I appreciate that. That was the goal. The goal is to inspire people. That's it. It's not to make money. It's not to be famous. It's to simply deliver inspiring and entertaining messages.
Well, you're on the right podcast, because that's what we do here. We've been doing this for about 5 years and built up a big listenership all over the world. We're heard everywhere. So it's great to have you on. Now, please tell our audience, and by the way, the book was fantastic again. Please tell our audience how at age 8 you came to understand that whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was the original life switch moment that I had. So, like you said, I was only 8. I was
Yeah.
at a point where I wasn't buried in thinking negatively and letting the world tell me what wasn't possible. I was a kid thinking that, I can try to do something, and ultimately I had this life-changing experience where I had this goal to achieve something, and in my mind I did. And it really took off that day, and my mind just went crazy, just like lights flashing, thinking, "Oh my gosh, if I could do this, what else can I do?" And it really gave me the first time in my life the limitless feeling, and it was almost like a sense of urgency of like, "Well, what else do I wanna do, and what else can I do, and how do I do it?" And it was just exciting. It was almost like the feeling I think a lot of kids have on Christmas Day, but the present I got was the ability to realize that I could set my mind on anything and do it. And over a period of time, that moment though, it faded. That bulb, that light that I had faded because I stopped thinking about anything being possible and started focusing on just fitting in and going with the crowd. And ultimately, I started to have these thoughts, these flashes of, this is not really what I wanna be. It's not who I wanna be. I was very average, and, the title that almost was the book was Running from Average, because I was running from average for much of my life, because everything I didn't have any special talents or skills, but down the road, I had another life switch moment where it reminded me that anything is possible, and then I went on a streak of doing these things, these amazing things that other people can do as well, and it just got me fired up again to see what I can do, and I wanted to just continue to see what my potential was and go from there.
Okay, now your story is immediately captivating. What is the core philosophy behind Life Switch? What's the what's the core philosophy behind it?
Yeah, the core philosophy is you're either living on or you're living off. That's it. And that's why it's called life switch, because we're all pre-wired to be successful, to be happy and fulfilled. We all have this wiring, like a house gets wired.
Yeah.
But if you don't flip the switch and provide the power source, it doesn't really mean much. And so when you look around every day, think about it. You see people, they look almost like zombies. They are
Yeah.
dragging themselves through life. They're getting through. I ask sometimes people, how's it going? Same, same or different day, same stuff. Or, I'm alive. And that's what they're doing. They're surviving. They are far from thriving. And so the idea is living on means you can see clearly. You know where you're trying to go, what you're trying to do. You know who you are and what's inside you. Living off is like trying to navigate around a room. If you've been to a hotel room and you don't put the lights on, you're not familiar with the terrain. You're feeling around. You're walking slowly. You're not sure. You might trip over something. So that's the clear factor: is, are you living on with clarity, or are you living off and just seeing what happens? People that live on, they don't just watch what happens, they make things happen.
Would you say that the people living on have a feeling of a lot more pep and energy to them?
Yeah, they're excited to just be alive. They're excited for the opportunity that each day brings. People that are off are fearful, they're anxious. They sort of live in fear and in a defensive mode. People on are more proactive. They're reaching out there. They're not afraid to fail because failure can lead to growth and opportunity. And so when you look at things right, it all starts up here in your mind. When you
Right.
look at things the right way, you sort of can't lose no matter what happens. If you have a good day, a bad day, there's something positive to take from that. People that are living off, they have a victim mentality a lot of times. And why is this happening to me? Everything happens for a reason, but they don't think about what that reason might be. And it's almost like a lot of people, and this is the thing that really, really makes me want to do what I do with speaking and getting out and spreading these messages, is a lot of people have a winning lottery ticket in life, but they've not scratched the ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they have this lottery ticket, but they haven't taken the time and effort because they think, well, it's probably not going to be a winning ticket. Like, there's so many people out there doing things, jobs, where they're mismatched with their passion, talents, and skills, doing what they think they're supposed to do, what they're told to do. There's so many people that, if put in the right situation, they can thrive professionally, personally, both. And the thing is, you have to be in the driver's seat, though. You have to take control. You have to realize that this is like a movie. All of our lives are like a movie. You're not just the actor or actress, you're the producer, the director. You're writing the screenplay every
Right.
day.
Right. I what you just told me, I'm just thinking to myself, I think we all know people in our lives, maybe it might be a family member, it might be a friend, and you know that you've seen this man or woman do incredible things at home on their own. It could be woodworking, it could be, anything. And and they're big creators, and you say to them, "Hey, you should do this for a living. You could make a fortune." And they'll just say, that's not for me." It's kinda what we're talking about, right? Living
Yeah,
off.
yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Ron, and people oftentimes, where the doubt and the discouragement comes from,
Yeah,
it comes from the same source. It's people become their own worst enemy, and they doubt themselves. Doubt is the kryptonite. Superman had his kryptonite. It was the only thing that affected him. Doubt is your kryptonite. And when you doubt yourself, you don't believe in yourself, who else is supposed to believe in you? If
exactly.
you can surgically remove doubt, right? Not really, but if you could really delete doubt, and anytime a negative thought comes in your mind, you view it like when you listen to songs, music, Spotify, Pandora, whatever service, you skip the songs you don't want to hear. Well, you should also train your mind to skip the thoughts that you should not entertain. So the thought telling you that you'll never make it, you're no good, you're not going to be successful, who are you? You're not special. You need to delete those thoughts and focus on the upside and the possibility. I know people that have tried things and they haven't succeeded with their goals. They didn't hit the stars, but they landed in the clouds. And so when you're aiming high, you usually end up in a good spot. If you're not even aiming at anything or aiming low, how do you think that's gonna turn out? And
Yeah.
anyway, that's the sad part. One of the things you mentioned, I faced a few challenges in my youth, almost went bankrupt, almost got shot several times, and I was almost put in jail. And in an instance where I had to do some community service instead, I was working on a garbage truck around Christmas time years ago. with a bunch of other guys. And talking to these guys, people see trash men, they think, oh, they're trash men, whatever. These guys were just like me and just like you. They were a kid at some point. They had a dream, they had goals, and they went down the wrong path. And they weren't as lucky as some people to get a second chance. And I'm thinking, some of these guys could be millionaires. They could be inspirational speakers and authors, but they didn't get a chance, or at least they didn't try to get a second chance. And it just really got me to value people and realize that there's so much more to uncover in people. And again, people are living way below their potential. They're not seeking out their passion and they're not living with purpose. They're just simply getting by each day. And that's a shame because look, those of us that are capable, that have, all of our, sight, hearing, arms and legs, like we're so.
If you are enjoying listening to or viewing the podcast, we would appreciate you spreading the word by sharing the podcast to your family and friends. Please visit the podcast website, itsarapwithrap.com, where you can find all the episodes, previews of future episodes, the podcast Book Nook, showcasing many of the books our guests have authored, and a link to subscribe to the podcast email list, as well as products and services offered by our sponsors.
Capable as people. We're designed to thrive and to make things happen. And so many people, they ignore these miracles of daily life and they just find ways to pass time. I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah, they just fade into the woodwork.
Yeah,
Now, you break this transformation down to three critical steps, and I believe you call them the three Ps: potential, passion, and purpose. Can you frame those for us? And then we will discuss each in a little more depth.
absolutely. So you start with potential, and I do this in the book. It's the three segments, like you said. Potential is the exciting part because it's what are you capable of? And to find out is just amazing. You have people that are famous athletes, actors, successful business owners. Sometimes they don't find out until later in life, but what's inside of you is just amazing. And that just gets me super pumped up talking about people's potential and what it might be. And I talk about being a kid and realizing that I had potential and even more than I thought. And it just kept going and going and going as far as I let it go into some of the things that you mentioned I got into ultimately. Then in the middle, there's passion. That's the interesting part, Ron, because everyone has something that makes them feel alive. And it might be something ridiculous. It might not make any sense. I'll give you a small example. I have a strange passion for doing puzzles. When I start a puzzle, I cannot stop. I wake up in the middle of the night because I feel such a sense of satisfaction when a piece goes in place. And it's just one of those things. But I took that passion and I thought, well, okay, that's just something that I like to do. There's no money in that, but
Yeah.
how can I apply that into my life? And that's when I realized partially financial services is like solving puzzles. It's helping people put together the puzzle of their financial life. Oh, and by the way, it pays really well. And so it's taking the passion, the hobby, whatever it is, the thing that you enjoy doing, whether it makes sense or not, something you did as a kid, could be something with sports, hobbies, activities, whatever you can harness and go back and realize made you feel alive, excited to get out of bed. You should be doing something with that kind of passion somewhere in your life. Maybe it's not at your day job, but maybe it's before and or after. And then the final P is purpose. Because ultimately, you think about companies, they always have a mission statement, but people don't really have that. But you should. We're all designed for a purpose. Mark Twain had a great quote. He said, the two most important days of your life are the day that you're born and the day you figure out why. And if you know why you're here, it makes a lot more sense. And when you find your purpose, you live this life that's almost like like if your life is here, a life with purpose is here, and it's a parallel life. And that's why I talk about right on the back of the book, going from an ordinary life to an extraordinary life. When you find your purpose, you start living an extraordinary life where you just are happy to be yourself. And that's the thing. In today's society with social media, everybody's following and trying to be like other people. But when you sort of have the highest level moment in your life, it's when you don't want to be anybody but yourself. And that's when you find your specific purpose. And so that's the key. Now, here's another thing I want to mention about purpose because
Sure, go ahead.
no one's going to wake up tomorrow probably and say, I've got my purpose. You want to understand that being on the journey to find your purpose is almost as important as actually finding it. So it's not a problem that you maybe don't know what your purpose is, but it's not okay if you're not pursuing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Let's start with potential again. You wrote that your early life was not easy. You mentioned flirting with serious trouble. What were those early challenges and how did they set the stage for you finding the switch?
Yeah, well, I did not have a lot of resources. I was raised by a single mother who was working all the time, trying to put food on the table, and I did not have a father essentially. And I got caught up with the wrong kids. And, what became important to me was just having fun and fitting in and not excelling and not taking advantage of the things that I had within me. So I was living in a way that I'm encouraging people not to do now. I learned from that. I'm trying to share that experience. I try to save people time, money, and misery from the hard way that I took. So ultimately, I did get myself on track. But again, like I said, I almost was put in jail. I had a police officer at the police station ask me. He said, "Which cell do you want to be in?" It was either, "Do you wanna be in cell block A or cell block B?" And I didn't realize he was kidding, but he told me that, "If you keep up what you're doing, this is exactly where you're gonna spend your life." And that scared me straight, that moment. But I thought to myself, I thought I was a good kid, I thought I was a good person, and then I realized, "Hey, I'm not. Just because I thought I was doesn't mean that I am anymore." But I also realized that my set of choices was being reduced to a terrible set of choices. And the thing is, everybody's making choices every day. You're either choosing choice A or choice B. Choice A is the easy choice. It's what makes you comfortable. It helps you get by, cope, deal with the day, deal with yourself. Maybe not deal with yourself by getting away from yourself. There's things like, of course, drugs, alcohol, all things like that, drowning out other things in your life. So choice A is to just basically get by, the easy choice with no payoff, no reward. Choice B might be a little uncomfortable. Probably it's going to require some hard work and some effort, but it's going to have a massive payoff. And so I tell people, anytime you have to choose A or B, start choosing B. Again, it might be against the grain, but that's what's going to help you get to where you want to be. And the key point in life, talking about A and B, another premise I like to talk about is where you are right now is point A in your life. And I don't care where that is, good or bad, right now you're at point A. Where you want to go, that's point B. And if you can have a crystal clear vision of where your destination is, you're going to have the best chance of getting there. And that's what I did. I ultimately sort of dragged myself through these things because I saw where I wanted to go and I really propelled myself to that. But it started mentally. You have to have that vision in your brain of where you want to go crystal clear, and you have to have a reason why you want to get there, and you have to make those tough choices to ultimately get there. But you have to believe without doubt that you can do it. If you say, "Well, I don't know if I can do that," well, then you're probably right and you can't do it. But that's the key. It's very simple. I outlined it in the book, but a lot of things in life I would say are simple, but if you actually do them, they're hard to do, right? Simple to talk about, hard to do.
Sure.
It's super effective. I think some of the best advice in life is the easiest to understand. But again, people don't want to do these things. So I have a simple two-step formula for success, Ron. Whatever your goal is, figure out what needs to be done and then go out and do it. Right? For a lot of people, step one is the easy part. Step two, not so much. But if you do both, you'll be successful personally, professionally, or both, depending on what your goals are. But it's that simple. And it's why people they know what they need to do to work out and eat healthy to be, strong and physically fit and in good shape, but they don't want to do it because why? Well, that's choice B. It's hard. There's sacrifice.
Right. So what you just told us is probably how you rose from rock bottom. That was your thought process to lift you up, like a phoenix from the ashes. Is that correct?
Yeah, what happened was I always had this vision of what I wanted my life to look like, and I had it down to what the kitchen looked like. The color in the kitchen was white. There was sunshine coming through. I pictured being married and having kids. And keep in mind, this is all in my teens. I'm thinking of this vision.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have really any interest in kids. If I realized I probably wanted them someday, just kinda made sense, circle of life. But I had this vision, and when my restaurant shuttered and I owed about $500,000 in debt at 24 years old, I felt like somebody dropped me off a cliff into the ocean, and I was supposed to just lay there and drown, and that was it. I was done, I was dead, and as I kind of was laying there floating, I was realizing, I'm not drowning. I could just sit here for a while at the absolute bottom, or I could start to work my way towards that vision again. And it would be extremely hard. I've had to work hard, I've had to work smart. And in that instance, I had to do both more than ever before. So I said, I need to get there. I want to get there. I can get there. And it wasn't about, well, can I do it? It was like I decided I was going to do that. And I heard this great quote watching the Eddie Murphy documentary on Netflix the other day. He didn't want to be famous. He decided he was going to be famous. And everyone thought he was crazy, except obviously they were the ones who looked crazy.
Right.
But that's the thing. It's like I said, it's a choice. He decided.
A warm cup in your hands, a quiet pause in a busy day, a conversation that lingers long after it ends. That's exactly where the book High on Life by Lori Kleiner Eckert invites you to begin. In High on Life, Lori Kleiner Eckert blends heartfelt storytelling, thoughtful reflections, and everyday wisdom into a beautifully grounded reading experience. Just like sharing a cup of chai, this book encourages you to slow down, breathe, and truly savor life, one moment at a time. This isn't a book about having all the answers, it's a book about asking the right questions. Through relatable stories and gentle insights, Laurie explores themes of connection, resilience, gratitude, and self discovery. Each chapter feels like a quiet conversation with a trusted friend, honest, comforting, and deeply human. Whether you're navigating change, seeking balance, or simply craving a moment of calm in a noisy world, High on Life meets you right where you are. It reminds us that life doesn't have to be rushed to be meaningful, and that reflection can be a powerful act of self care. This book is perfect for readers who enjoy personal essays and reflective storytelling, anyone looking to reconnect with themselves in the present moment, fans of mindful living, personal growth, and soulful conversations. So the next time you pour yourself a cup of tea, coffee, or chai, consider pairing it with a book that nourishes more than just the mind. High on Life by Laurie Kleiner Eckert is more than a book. It's an invitation to pause, reflect, and rediscover the beauty in everyday life. Pick up your copy today and start your own conversation with life, one sip, one page, and one moment at a time. Available from Amazon.
He was going to be successful. I decided I was going to get out of this black hole that I dug myself into. And I was supposed to have that debt for 10 years at best, and I paid it off in 2. And because I figured, well, if I'm already getting dirty and playing the game, I might as well play big, might as well play to win. And so I just buckled down. I figured out what I needed to do to find success in a financial business. And I went out, not only did I do it, but I started to see what I could do. For example, I knew there was a certain amount of activity I had to do each day. They called it minimum contacts. And I was doing that for a while. Then I thought to myself, why am I focusing on the minimum? Why am I not doing double the minimum? Why am I not seeing how many contacts I can make? And that's where, again, potential comes back in. And my passion at the time was getting out of the debt I was buried in. My passion was getting to the life that I envisioned for myself that seemed like it was impossible. And even though my fire for you can see my fire for life had really gone out at that time because my dream, my restaurant, my healthy fast food restaurant, I thought was going to be a national chain, a successful chain. It died and I couldn't reconcile that in my brain. But the pilot that I had, the pilot internally was still on. And so even though the fire was out, the pilot was still there. And that reminded me that, hey, I'm still alive. I still have a pulse. I still have a chance. And little by little, and pretty quickly, I took that pilot and I started to turn it back into a fire and I fed it. And ultimately, as I started to find success along the way, it fueled that fire, turned into a raging fire. And then I also had a purpose that I developed, which was to help people with their finances. And that's what helped me really dig out of that black hole.
Well, I think you just answered some of my questions because I was going to ask you about the restaurant business. I know you were $450,000 into debt. And you did pursue 2 different paths. You went down the path of fitness, and you went down the path of food, correct?
Yeah, I became a certified personal trainer during the restaurant building phase because that took me a while after college to create it. It wasn't just boom, you want to have a restaurant. I had to do an amazing amount of stuff that I had no idea how difficult that was going to be. I probably would not have done it had I known, but that was for the best. But I had that personal training background and I really was into healthy eating. And so again, it just made a ton of sense because again, these were things that I was passionate about. But the funny thing is, Ron, I had unlike most people, I had never worked in a restaurant. I tried to get hired at a couple of restaurants when I was younger. Nobody hired me, but I think 90% of the population worked at a restaurant at some point or other. And
Yeah,
at the
you're
time,
looking at I think that was my first job ever,
that's right.
was being a dishwasher at a pizza place.
Yeah, so I couldn't, I remember Boston Market was about to hire me, then the manager left, and then they didn't hire me, and I was bummed, but I never worked in a restaurant, but after I graduated college, I did because I had to check that box. I needed to know what it was like. You
Yeah,
can't open up a restaurant if you don't know how to run a restaurant or
that's
even
true.
or even work in one. So I say I got my master's degree from Burger King because that's where I went after I graduated, which was an interesting story, which is in the book. But I graduated 4 year to college business marketing, and I went to work at Burger King. Nobody understood why, but I had a vision. I had a plan. And if you ever, I know you didn't, but if you were in my restaurant, you'd recognize a lot of the equipment looked very similar to Burger King because that's where I got all my ideas from. And it ran like a successful franchise. And that was the idea. So I had a vision. I brought the vision to life. I was thrilled with it. But after not that long, I realized I had a real shaky foundation. So I opened up a second store and a third store, and I was losing money like crazy. But I was thinking of people like Ray Kroc and Glenn Bell from Taco Bell and all these other successful chains and thinking it's not about red or green as far as the money, it's about the number of stores. I was sort of trying to grow my way to success and ultimately, the debt got so big and so bad that for the first time in years, I took my blinders off and I realized that this isn't going to work. And that was ultimately, just about the lowest point in my life because it felt like there was a death because I had this dream and I gave up some of the best years of my life to bring the dream bring the dream to life, and the dream died really quickly. And so that's when I felt like I was dying and I was dead. But again, at 24, 25, I don't wanna be one of these people we talked about earlier who are living an ordinary life or worse. And that's when I realized that, I can't quit on myself. I can't give up. I've got so much life left to live, energy and passion. It just has to be reapplied elsewhere. So I
Right.
took the traits that got me to have success in the restaurant business and as a personal trainer, and I applied them into a different business, financial services. And that's another thing. That's why I like talking to athletes or former athletes. You're really good at a sport and then you're done, right? Whether you can't play professional sports or there is no professional sport for whatever sport you're in. But if you were a varsity athlete or college athlete, you have traits that are really valuable, that gave you success in your sport. Those traits can be applied elsewhere and you can find success in other parts of your life. And that's the thing I want people to know is there's these components, I call them assets. There's these assets within you, and when you understand what those are and you appreciate your own assets, you can really see your other external assets appreciate along with them. So people that again were really good at something, had fans cheering for them like crazy, even pro sports, because one day the fans stop cheering and the spigot on your income gets turned off, you can take these traits and apply them elsewhere. We saw Kobe Bryant did that. He became like an award-winning film producer after he stopped playing basketball because he took his talents, not shooting a basketball, but the things that made him a great basketball player, drive, creativity, passion, commitment, dedication, and he applied those to something else and found success in his next chapter. And again, so many people are not doing this, but anybody can do this and should do this.
Yeah. So when they're even if you fail once or you fall off the horse, you just gotta get back up. You can't just let that failure stop you forever, which a lot of people
Right.
do apparently.
That's right. Look, I did not ask for my restaurant business to fail. I didn't ask to be close to $500,000 in debt and go through the agony. But I have to tell you, it was like the best thing that ever happened to me. You know, if someone would have said, "Hey, you're gonna be, super successful and be financially independent, in your 30s or 40s," it's like, sign me up for that. They
Yeah.
say, "Well, here's what's gonna happen." But, of course, we don't know what's gonna happen, but when we control what happens and we have that vision, we really wanna make it happen, then we can make it happen, and we will make it happen if we focus on it and make that decision that it's gonna get done. But again, I didn't want what happened, but I wanted what came from it. And so that's why sometimes instead of feeling like a victim or not getting back up, you have to go with it. Because again, these things happen, they happen for a reason. And when you find out what the reason is and follow through, you'll get your answer. So my restaurant failed so I could become a successful financial advisor and have that practice that I've been managing and own for the last 22 years. It also allowed me to be more present for when I raised a family. I don't miss anything for my kids. I'm at every sporting event, choir practice, dance recital, and I love it,
Yeah.
and my kids are almost out of high school now, and it went like a blink of an eye, but I was there for everything, and that's super satisfying to me. Had the restaurant been successful, I would not have been able to say that or do that because as you know, that's like a 8-day-a-week job. I mean, it is not for the faint of heart,
No, it's
and also
brutal.
it allowed me to get involved with other passions of mine, like sports. And now I own part of a couple sports teams. So the restaurant didn't fail. My life would not have been nearly as good as it is. So even though it didn't seem like it was what I wanted, it's what I needed. And I saw it through. I didn't quit. And it was a detour, but my life ended up working out incredibly well, not in spite of, but because of that happening. It needed to happen. So whatever challenges you faced or you're facing, they might be blessings in disguise.
Well,
So don't
that's something that I've been espousing when I heard the phrase, instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" Start thinking, when these things happen to you, like your restaurant business or whatever, "Why is this happening for me?"
right. That's right.
You know? I mean, I got sick, twice with cancer, okay? And, and I didn't say, "Hey, well, why is this happening to me? Blah, blah, blah." I said, "Okay, why is this happening for me?" And from that, I got fixed up and started finding a purpose. And my purpose was advocating for male breast cancer. My purpose was, doing this podcast to give people hope and inspiration, just like you. You're on
Yeah,
here to
love
give
it.
people hope and inspiration. I wouldn't even be talking to you if it weren't for that. So, you know,
No, you're
absolutely
right.
100% agree with you.
You're right, you're on, and I love that. You're so right about that. And a lot of people that have something unfortunate happen, they help get behind a cause or create a cause, and they help not just themselves or their family, but hundreds, thousands, millions of people and inspire. It's
Right.
amazing. These things don't happen without the injection of passion or something bad, turning that bad situation into a blessing and then taking that to a level of potential that you didn't even know existed. So again, no one's life goes exactly as planned, but when you're looking for opportunities, whether it's failing or setbacks, realizing, like you said, why they're happening.
If you're looking for real motivation, real grit, and real life resilience, you need to hear the story of U.S. Marine and author Jay Setchell. Jay Setchell is the author of the powerful and inspiring book, The Strength Within You. It's Always Too Soon to Quit. His message isn't built on theory or hype. It's built on a lifetime of facing challenges head on and refusing to back down. As a United States Marine, Jay learned early what it truly means to commit, endure, and overcome. Those lessons followed him far beyond his military service and into every challenge life placed in his path. Through injuries, setbacks, and moments that would have broken many people, Jay held onto one unshakable belief. Quitting was never an option. Not once did he ever think of quitting any challenge in his life. In The Strength Within You, Jay shares how true strength isn't about never failing. It's about standing back up every time. He reminds us that no matter how hard things feel, It is always too soon to quit. His words speak directly to anyone who feels worn down, discouraged, or unsure of their next step. This book is for veterans, athletes, entrepreneurs, parents, and everyday people who want to push through adversity and rediscover their inner strength. Jay's story proves that resilience is a mindset and determination can carry you farther than you ever imagined. If you're ready to be inspired by a Marine who never gave up, never backed down, and never considered quitting, then you need to read The Strength Within You. It's always too soon to quit because the strength you're looking for has been inside you all along. The book may be purchased from Amazon in hardcover, paperback, or Kindle formats.
What you can do with them and not having the victim mentality. But yeah, great point.
Yeah. Now you write about consistency, doing small things that build momentum. Tell us some of your habits that keep your life switch on.
Well, one of which is, I just love being in good shape, not because 'cause I'm, doing contests or any fitness competitions, but I just feel when I'm in my best shape, I feel powerful, strong, and capable, and I just believe that when you're on a streak of positive activity, positive habits, it just spreads throughout the day and throughout other aspects of your life. So I love to get a workout in, like, first thing in the morning. I see my kids, they go off to school, I do a workout, I get the serotonin going, if I get a healthy start to my day, I generally eat healthier throughout the rest of the day. And so I try to have success each day. So checking that workout box, that's something I got off my to do list. Spending time with my family at dinner, something off my to do list. Obviously, working, sure. Getting on a good podcast like you with you, or booking a speaking engagement to inspire a lot of people. These are all boxes I want to check. And we're kind of like cell phones in a way, Ron, where we're either charging up towards 100% or we're working it down towards 0%. And so like, you think about your phone, right? You grab it in the morning off your charger, and what's it say? It says it's 100, brand new day. And
Yeah.
then as the day goes on, it starts to wear down. Well, you need to find things throughout the day to get that charge back up. So for me, a workout's charging back up, an interesting conversation with someone, talking about business or sports with somebody, talking about different investments like private equity investments, gets me excited. And again, spending time with my family, things that I'm passionate about recharge me. And a lot of people, they work all day, they go home, they go, I'm too tired to work out. I have days where I feel like I'm going to drool on myself. I'm so tired after work. The interesting thing is you go to the gym or, work out at home or go for a couple, walk blocks around your neighborhood or whatever. When you sort of turn off your mental component for a little bit and you exercise physically, it helps your mind charge back up. So by the time I'm done a physical workout, now I'm physically tired, but I'm mentally recharged. And that's part of the balancing act that people don't realize is just because you're tired doesn't mean you shouldn't do something active. In fact, you maybe need to do that because if you don't, then the rest of your night is going to be spent on the couch going like this. And your family's going to wonder, what's going on with dad? What's going on with mom? How come they don't want to hang out? How come they don't have anything positive to say? So, think about who you want to be. I talked about that vision. Keep a vision in mind of all these things that are important to you. When you come home each day, you walk in the door. What do you want your family to see? A beaten down, broken person, or somebody who is working hard for their family, somebody who's going to make things happen? So just realize that, right? You can't see
Yeah.
your own face sometimes, but think about how other people are viewing you. What are you giving off? What kind of vibes are you giving off? They desperation, disappointment, or optimism, hope, potential? And so just keep that in mind. Again, you are writing the script to your life every day, all day by the choices you make and the way you carry yourself,
Right. And only you can do it.
right?
So for people out there listening to this, it's up to you. There's nobody else that can do it. What inspired you, Joe, to turn your experiences into a book, and what do you hope the readers take away from reading it?
No, so far I'm getting exactly what I really dreamt of, and that's people are telling me the things that are inspiring them from the book. Some people are inspired just the fact that I wrote a book. I said I was going to do it and I did it. For some people, that's enough to get them to think about something that they've been talking about doing but never did. But my goal was to help as many people as I can. It's like a challenge to me. And that's why I have this campaign about if Life Switch sells 1,000,000 copies, I'm gonna personally donate $1,000,000. I'm excited to do this, and I'm hoping we can do it together. But the messages, the experiences I went through, I felt greedy. I felt that I was keeping it all to myself, that I'm living this really good life, and it didn't feel right. And I help people, and I've always helped people on a one-on-one basis. Again, fitness and finance, here in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and it just started to bother me that, there's so much more I have to give. I've been through so much, almost nobody knows my story, and I thought, "How can I take this story and all these experiences that I've gone through and not just share it, not just tell my story, but help other people do what I did, and that's live the best version of their own lives, go from ordinary to extraordinary." And so over the past 2.5 years or so, I put countless hours into creating this book to take a story, to make it entertaining, because everyone likes a story with inspiration, and that's ultimately what it is. And so I'm so excited that people around the country, around the world can listen to the book, can read the book, and as they go through it, they're thinking about their own lives. They're walking down their path of their own experiences, and they're realizing that in the present time, they can take control to then have a great, extraordinary future. And I know that people are going to do that. And to me, there's no better currency than fulfillment. And I'm so fulfilled when people come up to me and they tell me, or they email me, or they write a review that, you know, I said something, or they read something, or they just thought of this idea from reading the book. I had a lady relate to the opening chapter 1 story when I was 8 years old, that she had a somewhat of a similar moment like that when she was 6, and she kinda thought it was goofy and crazy. She never told anybody, but she said, "It was that experience that I clung to, and that's why I'm successful today, and I never really shared it until you shared your story." And that's the idea. So it's just getting people to be thinking, opening up, going from off to on, going from surviving to thriving. That's what gets me excited, Ron.
When you hear those comments from the readers, that's priceless, isn't it? I
Oh,
mean,
absolutely.
you can't buy that.
You
That's
can't.
priceless. That's
You
like
can't.
somebody, I get feedback and said people say, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. It was so inspirational." You know, that's better than anything I could ever buy.
So true. The best things in life are generally free.
Yeah.
And that's why I wasn't gonna release the book until it was the absolute perfect version of what I envisioned it would be. I was never somebody who even wanted to write a book. Then I was never somebody who was gonna go around and tell people, "Well, I wrote a book." Like, I didn't care that I wrote a book. The reason why I wrote the book was simply for the messages to get spread. It's a mechanism to spread the messages and spread inspiration in the world, which I think we need now more than ever. There's a lot of negative sentiment out there,
Yeah.
and people are so plugged in other places that they're not at all tuned into themselves. So they're not going to hit their own potential because they're not paying any attention to themselves. They're always looking out at something. They're chat GBTing, what's my purpose? They're not asking themselves. Nothing and no one is going to know you better than yourself.
Yeah.
And so I when my publisher asked me, he said, "Hey, how many copies of the book do you want?" I said, "I don't want any." And he said, "What are you talking about? You wanna give it away?" I said, "No, I would want it in readers' hands. It's not a trophy. It's something that I wanna share with people." And so that's why it's in the ebook and it's the audiobook. I think the audiobook is like 99 cents when you sign up for Audible. And if you have Audible, it's 1 credit. And then there's the hardcover, of course. And, I just wanted everyone to have an opportunity to read or listen to this, because there's no way you read this or listen to it and don't find inspiration. I mean, the only way that's possible is if you have no pulse, which is a whole 'nother set of challenges.
Where can people get the book?
Most people get it on Amazon, but you can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Walmart. I believe Target now has it, or you can go to my website, bookjoelsteele.com. But again, you can get it in any format, so there's no excuse. But if you have an Amazon account, just type in Life Switch Joel Steele, and you'll see it right there. It'll get delivered the next day. So again, very simple. Trying to make this very easy for listeners and for readers. And again, you vote for the charity that you want me to donate the $1,000,000 to at my website. It's bookjoelsteele.com. But anyone who buys the book in any format gets to vote on the charity that they want to see me write the check out to.
Okay. So, is it gonna be multiple checks going out or just one
Yeah.
check?
Yep,
Mul
it's gonna be the top 10 voted charities, voted by readers. I don't have any vote on this, but the top 10 charities voted for are gonna get $100,000 each. But it's
Wow.
gonna be $1,000,000, and if we end up hitting 2,000,000 and 3,000,000 and so on, we're gonna keep doing it. We're just gonna keep it going. I do not make much money per book, and I I originally wrote in the book that I didn't write this book to make money, but I
Yeah.
thought to myself, "Well, it sure looks like I did." And so I wanted to really have an action in here to speak louder than my words, so I took that line out, and I created this campaign about 6 months ago before the book even launched to say that, "Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm putting my money where my mouth is." I'm not just trying to inspire people one-on-one here. I'm trying to inspire people to see what they can do, what their potential is when we come together. Because anyone who buys a book, even if it's an ebook for 99 cents or 9.99, depending on the price point at the time, you are part of a $1 million donation. So everyone makes a difference. Everyone's going to get credit. And that's just exciting to me that people can help do something amazing without having to write out a big check themselves, but they're part of it. So it shows the power and the potential of working together, working towards something positive, having a big, hairy goal and seeing it through. I don't have doubt that we're going to do this. I know it's hard. I know it's a crazy goal that a lot of people would tell me it's a crazy goal, but I know it's possible. And so that's why I'm going after it.
Yeah, love your enthusiasm. Now, in your book, and you just mentioned that one of the major words here. In your book, you talk about the difference between motivation and activation. That activation is the real power. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, I mean, people read motivational books, stories, and all things like that. But that's great. That's entertaining. That's sort of on the outside. Activation is the inside. That's flipping the switch.
Right.
Again, it starts all within you. If you can get the most out of yourself, you're going to get the most out of the world around you. So activating comes from within, motivation is the outside. So when you're on, now you're ready to roll. But if you're not on, it's, oh, that's interesting. Wow, that's compelling. Wow, that's really cool. Hey, let me share this with my friends. But it doesn't get you to take action, right? We can be motivated all day, but when we're inspired, we want to take action. We want to know what to do, how to do it. And when you're activating, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna pick this ball up and run with it.
What do you do personally when you feel yourself slipping into the off mode again?
Yeah, I immediately pull back from what's bringing me down, right, which a lot of times is technology or something at work, and I sometimes will go outside. Picture it almost like this black ink is injected into our red blood, and it's starting to really turn it and go down the wrong path, so you gotta pull out of that, and I actually have a chapter talking about that a little bit. But I try to do something positive, flip the tide. Might be a couple push-ups, might be putting on a more positive song, might be calling a friend or a family member. Or again, sometimes I'll just say, I'm out of here. I'm going to head home early today. So it's something to, number one, stop the negativity, stop the spiral, and find something positive quickly. And I think it's best to have a short list of the things that you're going to do if you feel yourself spiraling, because it's hard to know what to do in that moment when your emotions are sort of taking over. So have sort of like a preconceived plan of what you're gonna do if you find yourself starting to spiral.
Now, the last P is purpose. With all your endeavors, how does your purpose evolve, and what have you realized is the best scenario to achieve your life purpose?
Yeah, it's really evolved because my purpose originally was about, like, me and living my best life and taking care of my family and being financially independent. And it really shifted. It actually shifted when I started to do articles, financial articles in the local major paper a number of years ago. People were reaching out to me, and I just realized that I was able to have a bigger impact than just on myself and my life. And that stuck with me for a while. So my purpose evolved from taking care of myself and living my best life to helping other people live their best life. And I don't see that getting old. I'm sure my purpose will keep evolving. But when I'm giving talks, presentations from the stage, I mean, Ron, I feel so alive. I feel like there's going to be like electricity shooting out of my hands. I mean, I am just so excited to help people really wake up and activate their best life. So that's where I'm at right now, and I'm also juggling a couple other balls. I think you mentioned it earlier, but I own part of a couple sports teams, and I have a passion for business, for sports, for family. So I mix these things together, and to me, it's the best case scenario. I'm doing multiple things I'm passionate about, and I'm meeting a bunch of interesting people and hearing their stories. And I get inspired very easily, as you can tell, by hearing other people, like Ron, what you just said. You had a terrible diagnosis with cancer and you turned it into something positive. Like, I love to hear stuff like that. And so that never gets old. So if people like you and I and other listeners tonight, we can find ways to not only be inspired, but to then pay it forward and inspire others, man, this world would be a much better place.
What you're talking about is for real age, right?
Yeah.
So
I
who's listening to this? It could be anybody from 20 to 80 or 90, who knows?
That's right, that's right. I was just talking to my uncle who read the book, and he said, "I have a friend who was 65 in 2008, and he retired, and he opened up the restaurant business, and it's still thriving, and now he does cookbooks." And so he's, like, 80 some years old now or something like that, but he wasn't like, "Well, I'm old, I should probably start, prepaying my funeral." He was thinking about, no, living his life to the fullest, and that's what retirement is. It's the time where you have time and money to spend and do exactly what you wanna do. Yet a lot of people, they start to put one foot in the grave the day they retire. And I help people retire for a living, and I tell them, "Don't do that." When you said when you were a kid, "Someday I don't wanna have to work, I don't have to work, I'll have enough money, I'm gonna do all the things I wanna do, I wanna travel," like, this is it. But they forget. It's almost like Peter Pan forgetting who he was, right? They forget the goals, dreams, and hopes they had as a kid because they worked so long and they didn't spend enough time around work thinking about what they're passionate about, who they really are behind their name badge, and it's tough for those people. But yes, the book is for anybody, but it's, I think, having the biggest impact on people that are launching out into the world for the first time, people in their 20s, people that are relaunching in their 30s and their 40s, people that had a business that went out of business, they lost their job, changed jobs, got divorced, got remarried, had kids, having a hard time. It's really helpful for those people. They are looking for some kind of change in their life. But again, even people that are a little bit older, there's no age limit on living your best life. There just isn't.
Now, Joe, let's help our viewers and listeners apply this out there. Suppose someone out there feels stuck in a job that drains them or a habit they can't break, or just a general sense of there must be more for me. What would be the most single actionable step they could take today?
Yeah, the first thing doesn't sound very actionable, but the first thing you wanna do is step back, turn off all the distractions, and set your clock to maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, and just sit there and think uninterrupted about what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what gets you riled up, excited, right? There could be something that makes you excited. There could be something that makes you angry. Maybe if there's something that makes you angry, there's a way to do something to avoid that. You know what I mean? Like, there could be a cause where, hey, this bothers me when this happens or people do this. So create the solution for that if that's possible. But you have to spend time with yourself. Before you go out there, it's like you're going somewhere in your car. You don't really get in your car and start going unless you know where you're going, right?
Right.
So I feel like before you do anything, you've got to step back and determine where you're trying to go. Who are you? But that's the key, is who are you? What's inside you? So the first action step is to step back, spend time with yourself, get to know yourself uninterrupted. Do this for 15 to 20 minutes a day and you'll be bored. But beneath that layer of boredom is a level of gold that's within you. You've got to be a little bored to let your mind start to go and realize, what are you trying to do? What's bothering you? Emotions are interesting things, Ron. They're extremely powerful. It's like a charades game. Your emotions are telling you exactly what you need to know, but without words. So you've got to pay attention. And it's almost like, are you hot? Are you cold? You're getting clues telling you, your body is telling you, your brain and your body are telling you exactly what you need to know, but you have to figure out what those messages are, what those clues are. And you can only do that when you're paying attention. And so that's why you want to spend that time by yourself. That's step one. Ultimately, once you start to figure out your passion and what your purpose might be, and understanding that your purpose is unlimited to do any of this, that's when you start to come up with, okay, here's my vision. And you want to write this vision down. Words, you can draw it, whatever you're seeing in your mind clearly. Because once you have that destination and you're committed to getting there, that's when the magic starts to happen. And that's where each day can be a success towards that goal.
Now, you also touch on mindset and self talk. For those out there that wrestle with doubt or negative inner voices, what is your best advice to manage that mental noise?
Just 100% delete those thoughts, delete the doubt. Just say, nope, not doing it. I, I don't agree. I don't believe you. Delete the doubt. Do not let doubt seep into your life. It has no benefit. And all it does is hold you down like there's a cinder block connected to your legs. So if you can delete doubt, you will rise like a balloon into the air. That's what I'm talking about. But if you don't do that, you're going to struggle because while you're trying to go up, something's pulling you down.
Yeah. Now, what's next for Joe Steele? What's the next switch you are flipping?
I'm gonna just flip switches all day long, and so every time a book is read, we're flipping another switch. Every time I give a talk, we're flipping multiple switches. That's why I love talking so much because I get to literally be in a room full of people where we're flipping switches and getting people fired up to be themselves. So I'm gonna keep doing that. My goal is to continue to speak, travel around the country, speak to organizations, different companies, schools I've been speaking to more. I really enjoy that because these students are like, they're just getting started and they don't know what to do. It's a challenging world. AI is taking people's jobs. So it's more important now than ever to understand what these kids' assets are so they can apply them in a career where they're hopefully going to be in a good spot and have a great trajectory to build a foundation on. And so I really enjoy that. I love talking to athletes because, again, they feel that they're sort of falling off, but again, they can reapply those talents and traits and find success in other parts of their life. And this happens a lot of times with Olympic athletes too. They get depressed after the Olympics because they don't know what else to do,
Yeah.
but they have so much potential if it's reapplied, redirected elsewhere.
Yeah. How can people contact you?
Through the website, bookjoelsteele.com. So book Joel Steele. It's Steele, bookjoelsteele.com, and you can just send me a note right through the website. Obviously, you can get the book, you can book me to speak, but if you have a question for me, I'm happy to answer it. I really enjoy connecting with people. I'm happy to flip switches, to spread insight and knowledge, and just give direction. I'm not someone who likes to tell people what to do, but I like to try to tell them how they should be thinking to get to
Yeah.
the answer that they're looking for.
I also have joesteele.com. Is that still active?
Well, it's bookjoelsteele.com.
Okay. So book joesteele.com. All right, we're gonna put that in the podcast notes so everybody out there can get a hold of you. And
Perfect.
Joe, I just want to say this has been a powerful conversation. Your story and your is a reminder that we always have the power to flip our own switch, no matter how dark it gets. I want to thank you for being on the podcast, and I wish you great success with the book. I know this podcast believes in what you're saying and your book, and we'll talk offline. We'll be doing something to help you along with the book. And just want to wish you a lot of success with your work going forward. And I hope all those who buy the book keep it handy and refer to it often. I'm rooting for everybody to keep flying. And to all my listeners and viewers, remember, never give up. You can always flip the switch and start again. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap at gmail.com. Our website is it's a wrap with rap.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Wrap with Rap. We got about 2,000 members. It's a private group, so if you want to join, just email me. Instagram, It's a Wrap with Rap podcast. We're on X at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. And all the episodes are on YouTube. It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. I want to thank everybody for listening or viewing. Want everybody to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap. The podcast is so happy and proud to have Blue Sky CBD as one of our sponsors and supporters. At Blue Sky CBD, they know that the highest quality CBD starts from the seed. Blue Sky partners with sustainable, responsible farms for superior hemp plants to extract their CBD and other healthful phytonutrients. Each of Blue Sky's products contain high concentrations of CBD for maximum impact, and Blue Sky offers some of the lowest cost per milligram CBD on the market. All Blue Sky's products are THC free and are tested by a third party laboratory for potency and purity. All this has made Blue Sky one of the only CBD brands trusted by healthcare professionals across the United States. As the demand for CBD and its therapeutic potential have grown rapidly worldwide, it is difficult to know which products you can trust. At Blue Sky CBD, they just don't sell their products, they use their products. Blue Sky CBD proudly shares testimonials of their loved ones who use these products. Blue Sky CBD guarantees the potency and purity of each and every product they sell. Blue Sky tests their products 3 times. First, the plant is tested, next, the isolate, and last, the final product to ensure each product batch meets Blue Sky's high standards. A copy of the certificate of analysis is linked below each product description online. The Blue Sky CBD website contains client testimonials, including a case study for each testimonial from the people just like you regarding people dealing with severe anxiety and insomnia, high blood pressure, pain management, headache, rheumatoid arthritis and spondylitis, and endocrine balance. Blue Sky even makes the product Pet Love for our canine and feline family members. Blue Sky CBD uses CBD derived from hemp that is THC free, which is drug free and can be sold everywhere legally in the United States. Blue Sky CBD wants you to feel confident with your purchase and offers you excellent customer service. If you are not satisfied with their products, you may request a refund of the full purchase price within 30 days of the product received date. When ordering, please use the podcast link to receive 20% off your initial purchase. The link and website information will be listed in the podcast notes.